Generation Z is furious about what has happened to the economy, and they're blaming previous generations for wrecking it. Michael Snyder reports, no matter how hard they work, millions of Generation Z Americans are just barely scraping month by month after month, and many of them are seriously pissed off about this. In fact, videos of Generation Z Americans ranting about the economy on TikTok have been racking up millions of views. Many of those that are ranting about the economy absolutely hate the fact that no matter how much they try, they can never seem to get ahead. Others just keep getting deeper and deeper in debt because they can never seem to make enough money to pay all the bills. And do you know who they're blaming for the pain that they're experiencing? They're blaming those that belong to previous generations for wrecking the economy, and they are right. We're handed the keys to the greatest economic machine in the history of the world, and for decades our leaders have been systematically destroying it. The bright future that future generations of Americans were supposed to have has been wiped out, and Generation Z Americans are starting to realize that even more pain and suffering are ahead. If I was a member of Gen Z, I would feel the exact same way. The economy has been ruined, and it's people my age and older that did it. We should be absolutely ashamed of ourselves, but we're not. For many years I've been warning that someday young people would be absolutely furious because of what we have done to their future, and now that is precisely what's happening. The Gen Z TikTok user named Nicholas Summers recently made headlines all over the nation when he ranted about the fact that he's struggling to survive each month, even though he makes 3 times the federal minimum wage. But when Nicholas Summers took to TikTok to rant about the difficulty of surviving in America, millions of people tuned in to agree. He claims that he makes 3 times the minimum wage, which would mean he's making at least $21.75 per hour, and is still struggling to survive. This is not surprising considering the rising inflation and wealth gap between America's richest and poorest. Some see America as the greatest country in the world, but many citizens live like it's a third world country. And now the masses are angry and ready for a revolution, as evidenced in Nick's rant, which he concludes by saying, the American dream is dead. And Michael Snyder says a lot of my readers can identify with what he's going through. It can be absolutely soul-crushing when there is simply not enough money month after month, even though you're working as hard as you can. In his video, he asks if someone can explain to him in crayon-eating terms why even the basics have become so difficult to afford. With hot inflation numbers to prove it, one hacked-off Gen Z American took to TikTok and he detailed a struggle to survive and pay for everyday items. Can somebody explain to me in crayon-eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live? The user allegedly named Nick started to say. And I do not want to hear the pull yourself up from your bootstraps to work 90 hours a week. That's not the goal, guys, he continued ranting. A 1-bedroom apartment, $1,800. 2-bedroom apartment, $2,200. What the F? Who the F can afford this? It's embarrassing to come out and say that it's a struggle to survive right now, but I know so many people are struggling, he said. I can certainly understand his frustration. I've been writing about these things for years, but our leaders never listen. Conditions have been deteriorating for a very long time, and in a subsequent video, Nicholas observed that this has been happening no matter who has been in control in Washington. I just now realize that regardless of which side I vote, it would be fixed, Nick said. They continue to pull this bulls and and spending budgets that they keep approving, the foreign aid they keep sending out when we need that in America. How many homeless veterans are out there on the street right now? He added in the recent post. Government overreaching, government overspending has continued to happen, and it's getting worse and worse. Our leaders are just going to keep doing what they're doing until the entire system completely and utterly collapses, it appears. Another rant about the economy that has already been viewed more than 6 million times was posted on TikTok by a Gen Z woman named Caitlin. In her video, Caitlin, a Walmart employee, stated, I cannot stand how the news has been dodging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week. I still do not make enough to live on my own. She then highlighted the stark financial disparities that exist between her generation and previous ones. She said, 20 years ago, when you were getting started with your career, you could live on your own. 20 years ago, when you first started, you were able to do everything that I am now struggling to do, she said. And she's very clear about who she thinks is responsible for creating the giant economic mess that we are now facing. She said, you can sit here and call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I have been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life, she said. She said, I don't want to work my tail end off, wasting all of my life working just to barely be able to pay my bills. Caitlin concluded her message with a pointed argument, shifting the blame to previous generations for the current state of the economy and the burden it places on Gen Z. And she said, you tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. And she said, you let it all run to hell, and now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes. Bingo. She doesn't want to work for the rest of her life to pay off the $34 trillion that has been ruthlessly stolen from her generation and future generations of Americans, and I don't blame her one bit. If we lived in a just society, those responsible for getting us $34 trillion in debt would be in prison. But instead we treat them like heroes. Shame on us, because the cost of living is so ridiculously high, most young adults cannot make it on their own in this economy. And as a result, vast numbers of them are living in poverty, and debt levels among our young adults have risen to very alarming levels. Then there's Gen Z, which has higher debt levels and delinquency rates for a number of credit products, from credit cards to mortgages and student loans, than millennials did at the same age a decade ago. The Gen Z frustration is real, writes Jonathan Levin for Bloomberg Opinion. If you have a job, a house, and some stocks, you're probably doing just fine. But America's two-track economy is leaving many behind, particularly young adults, he said. In recent years, the Federal Reserve flooded the system with trillions of dollars, and the experts assured us that there would not be any serious consequences. They were dead wrong. And our politicians have been adding about $1 trillion to the national debt every 100 days, and the experts assured us that everything would work out just fine somehow. They were dead wrong about that too. Our leaders are destroying our currency, they're destroying our economy, and they're destroying our future. And if you think that things are bad now, just wait until you see what the next few years bring. We're on a highway to economic oblivion, and when Gen Z blames the generations that came before them, they are right on target. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Michael's new book entitled Chaos, available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon, and you can check out his new Substack newsletter right here. About the author, Michael Snyder, extremely controversial new book, Chaos, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. You can connect with Michael on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and share his articles on your own social media accounts. It's definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.